Hello, and welcome back to our garden here in Norfolk. Now, if you remember, we said back at the beginning of May in our top tips for May that you need to be cutting the runners off your strawberries, and that's so that they put all of their energy at this moment in time into producing their fruit. And we've been doing this as the month has been going on, but if you're not familiar with it, this is what they look like when they send the runners out. But eventually, if you left it, would get a root under there. And then once it has taken root, you can then cut it either side away from the mother plant, and you have another new strawberry plant. But we don't want that yet. We still want fruit to be born on these plants. The weather has been really lovely today. It's late in the evening on Sunday. And all that sunshine we've had, you can see that our first strawberry is about to start to turn red.
Oh yes.
So it's not going to be long before we taste the sweet, lovely taste of strawberries. So what we do want to do now is to actually put some straw under our fruit. Because if we do get some rain during the week, the soil will become really soggy and wet. And ultimately, so will our strawberries. And then, of course, it goes without saying, what we then need to do is to cover these over. Because there's a sure bet Mr. and Mrs. Blackbird would love a taste of our strawberries. And that is the all strawed over. Now, I've been doing this for some time, quite a few years now. This is the way that my father actually taught me to protect the strawberries. But actually, if you have other methods you use, do drop us a comment in the comment box so that we can all learn other ways. This is just the way that I've always done it like this, and it's always seemed to have worked. Today's programme, we shall be showing you what went on in our greenhouse. We got to where we just had the harvest of carrots and the shallots, and all we've left in there are the garlic just to finish off maturing. But now we have all these plants that need to go in. Our tomatoes, our cucumbers, our aubergines, and the peppers and chilies that we overwintered. Hey, join us here in the greenhouse now, and at last we can look to get things planted up. I've got the first 4 tomatoes in, but actually I'm thinking these garlic are looking like they quite really could be ready for us to harvest as they were grown in the greenhouse. So I'm just gonna...
Oh, look at that.
Well, Mrs. W, what about that?
That's a beauty.
I think that justifies us growing those and overwintering them in the greenhouse.
Definitely.
Now this is a new variety to us. It's called Mersey White. And what I do always do with the garlic is that I like to try and get this peeled at this stage. Not everybody will always tell you to do that, but I find it comes off better. And oh, there's some really lovely clues under there.
Very good.
That is an absolute beauty,
Lovely
isn't it?
size, yeah, yeah.
And you know, if you could grow garlic that size every year, that would be amazing. Out in the garden where we grow it, and we get decent enough sized bulbs, don't get me wrong, for what we want, but we don't ever really get to this size, do we?
No. And the smell is quite overpowering. Look forward to trying those ones.
And also the garlic that we have outside. I'll be looking to harvest that toward the end of this month in June, beginning of July. But because this has been grown in the greenhouse, it's sort of another 2 to 3 weeks more advanced. And that's why we can harvest it as it is now. So I do think, Mrs. W, that we will have the rest of the garlic up.
Well, for our first attempt at growing undercover, it doesn't look like we've done too badly.
That's not too bad at all.
Oh, that's another good sized one.
Yeah, it is. This Mersey White is proving to be a really good garlic, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, we mightn't get too many of these to eat this year, Mrs. W. Especially on that really large bulb. This is another really good sized one.
That is.
Because if it's grown a really good sized plant, I want to keep these bulbs to then replant next year.
Later in the year.
Or
this year.
If it's made a big bulb, it's likely that the cloves that it's produced will make large bulbs again.
I can't believe the smell. It's so garlic. Well, that's even bigger still, isn't it? Yes, look at that.
We've never grown garlic like that before.
We haven't.
So yeah, the garlic's looking really, really great. I've harvested that now. Another real good feature about growing it in here is that I saw no sign of rust. Now, bizarrely enough, we haven't seen too much rust on our garlic that's outside.
No, that's looking... Last year we had quite a bit, didn't we? But this year it's not so bad. Don't know why. But I'm not complaining.
But what I will say is that the plants were taller, stronger and had more leaf. And that's what gets you a larger bulb. You can see that I've already planted out 4 tomatoes. These 2 here are San Marzano. And we like growing those. They're really great for making tomato sauces, things like that. Yeah, really, really great for things like that. These 2 are Moneymaker. They're Mrs. W's go-to variety. And really great tomatoes. Nice large tomatoes, actually. Great for putting in your sandwiches, aren't they?
Oh yes, my
or
favourite.
having on a bit of toast.
Just a tomato sandwich. Lovely.
But for Mrs. W, and I have to say, she's not wrong, these red cherry tomatoes that we've been growing for the last 3 years now, is it?
3 or 4, I think.
Yeah.
Possibly even 5. Time flies.
They probably are the best tasting tomatoes that we grow and have grown thus far. They really are. They're sweet and juicy and lovely, and they produce vines that are super prolific, aren't they?
Yes.
Just super
Some of the trusses have over 20 cherry tomatoes on. Last year they did. They were massive.
Now you can see that we now always use the string method. We don't use canes anymore. It's just one less thing that can poke your eye out. And this really works using the string, and you haven't got to buy canes too. And we look to plant our tomatoes by make a hole. You can see just how dry the soil is in here. Now what I'm going to do is just give it some water. And I think what this will do for the plant, it'll give a really, really good start to its life. It will already be damp under there, and we shall give these a really good water once we've finished planting them. Actually, you can tell just how much Mrs. W likes these red cherry because there are 4 of these.
No, there's 3.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't. If I'd had room for 4, I'd have done 4. I am going to plant some outside though. So.
There is concrete there. So the water has drained away in the first hole. You can see these have got a really nice root ball. What we are going to do is just take off the lower leaves, and of course any side shoots that are appearing. And at this time of the year they come quite profusely. So we just wrap that around the root ball and then backfill. We wrap it round for its first wrap, and as that plant grows bigger and bigger, we shall just wrap the stem around it. And that is how we plant our tomatoes. Now next what we want to do is get our cucumbers in. So do like a nice crispy cucumber. And the method is going to be exactly the same. We're going to dig out a hole big enough for it, and then we're just going to drop some water in the bottom of the hole. By the way, I don't think I said with the tomatoes, they need to be somewhere between 18 and 24 inches apart. And with cucumbers, they want to be 18 inches apart in the greenhouse. So again, we just fill that up with some water so that there's something for the roots to go down into. And once this now drains away, it will mean that it's nice and moist in the bottom there. If we plant these and then water from the top and keep watering from the top, it can encourage the roots just to stay near the surface. And you want them to go down to anchor that plant really, really well. Now, Pachysandra is a great variety to grow, and especially if you are new to growing cucumbers or you don't have the time to grow the traditional varieties, because Pachysandra has all female flowers. Nothing else but female flowers. So there's no need to identify the male ones and pinch them out. And you do get lots of lovely cucumbers, don't you, Mrs. W? They are
nice.
Really quite prolific.
Nice size. Nice flavour.
And that's your cucumbers done, Mrs. W.
Lovely, thank you.
And next I want to turn my attention to the chilies and the peppers that we overwintered from last year. We're really pleased with the way this has gone. I can't exactly remember how many we did have, but bizarrely enough it has worked out that we actually have 5 left of each. And we did lose 1 or 2 along the way, but it's worked out really well like this. And from what I can see at the moment, certainly by doing this you can get these into flower earlier. You can see these chilies, these flowers are now going to develop, whereas the plants we're going to plant in a little while that you'll see, which are the ones we started from seed this season, we're deliberately doing that so that we can compare the harvest we get from those that we've overwintered and those that we've sown this year. And that's the reasoning behind that. And this is the first year that we've really done this, But actually at the moment I consider it a real good success. And what I would say, those of you that were doing it with us, along with us, I don't know how you found it, but we had a bit of trouble with the green fly, didn't we, during March?
Indoors on the
Indoors.
windowsill. Yes, yeah.
So we would take them outside on the brighter and better days, and all we did was give them a blast with some water, didn't we, to get them off. They don't seem to have suffered any ill health from it. The fact that they're flowering, really good.
I also rubbed the sort of leaves, anything that I could eradicate by hand as well.
Yeah.
Just to try and I think we've got on top of it. It looks like we have, so that's good.
It does. So again, what I have done is to make the hole, put some water in there just so that there's some dampness in the bottom when you go to plant it, and then obviously sink the plant in, and I've actually planted these at the same level that they were in the pots. So we have a few more to do, Mrs. W. So that's our peppers and chilies planted in here. And one of the things I didn't say earlier, especially when we were talking about the tomatoes, is that when we do this string method, you can see that we've left a bit of slack at the top. So if these plants do get big and they start to pull on this, we can just undo the slip knot and then just give it a little bit more slack. And what you're seeing us doing here will almost be replicated in the polytunnel. We should be growing some tomatoes in there, some cucumbers, aubergines, and some more peppers and chilies. One thing I did just want to say is that we grow most things that we want from seed, and if that's what I want, if I want to grow something, I do grow it from seed. But I don't see anything wrong with buying plants should you need to, and these were some that myself and Mrs. W actually bought. I think it was from Sutton's I got them from. They had a sale coming to the end of when they needed to get rid of them, and these plants were on sale for £1. So you're thinking, actually, the different varieties that we've never tried before, so rather than just go and buying a load of seed, then we choose to buy these just for £1 and grow them and see what they're like. Do we like them? And then if we do, then hopefully we can get hold of the seed the following season. This one happens to be a pepper, which is called Flamingo. And that will go in on this side with the other peppers and chilies that we've grown from seed. Next I want to put in our aubergines, and just like the pepper, we've also got an aubergine, which just cost us £1. And it's a new variety to us, which is called Violet Night. So we're going to give that a try and see what that looks like. And we shall plant these up in exactly the same way as we have everything else. You can see I've already made the holes, dropped some water in the bottom. All we need to do now is get them out of the pots and plant it up. Now, what I do want to do is just finish planting in here. And I have some calabrese, our old favourite marathon that we really like. You can see they've grown really well, they've got a great root system. They are ready to go in the ground now, and as I have this space here for now, I'm going to put them in here. It wasn't my original plan, but because things change, and you do have to be flexible, otherwise there's no point really in being a gardener. So I'm going to pop those in there so that they can get underway. And our plan is to grow them like we did last year. And if you are new to our channel, or you're watching us for the first time, do go back and have a look at our video from last October, November time, when we took a harvest of these calabrese that we planted this time last year. Some lovely big heads that we harvested, but then we left the plants and we got lots of side shoots that came from them, and they kept producing them almost till January, really, didn't they? And we were coming out and picking some. Now these won't be the only calabrese that go in for the autumn and winter period. Somewhere down there we'll go another row so that we have, because we do like the calabrese here, do like the broccoli heads. So at long last we've caught up, and we didn't even get to put our top tips for June on this video because it's already running quite long again. Myself and Mrs. W have had so much that we've needed to catch up on. It's been so cool here in Norfolk in the United Kingdom, especially by night. The last 10 days of May, really, we've had temperatures down to 3 and 4 degrees at night, which is why I've been really hesitant about getting these plants out into the greenhouses and the polytunnels. But we do seem to be at a point now that we've got ourselves into June where the temperatures have stabilised, and we're seeing regular overnight temperatures now for the last week of 9 and 10 degrees, which is about the lowest you really want to be going when you're planting things like this out. Now, as usual, we have some flowers outside that will attract the bees just to show them the pathway into the greenhouse. And then we have some marigolds towards the front and some tagetes toward the back. And no doubt, as we finish filming, Mrs. W will drop 1 or 2 more in. We need to encourage the pollinators into the greenhouse and the polytunnel in order that they can pollinate the flowers so that we can get the lovely tomatoes and the lovely aubergines. So we do need to be encouraging those in there. It was good to get those calabrese put out into the ground because that was a job that needed to be done. You could probably see that those plants, for us certainly, they needed to go out. They were quite large actually. For us, they normally go out much smaller. It was lovely to see that the strawberries are coming on. They're actually looking really quite rosy now, and I certainly think in the next couple of days we shall have some lovely ripe red juicy strawberries to eat. But I don't know about you guys, but for me, one of the biggest successes and what's really worked well is the garlic that we grew under cover. It was minus its rust. Very, very little did we see on that. Lovely big bulbs, and they're ready a full 2 to 3 weeks earlier than the ones that we have outside. So I regard that as a real success. Do let us know in the comments down below if you grew anything like that undercover, whether it be the garlic, the shallots, carrots, anything else. I've heard from 1 or 2 of you, and I know a lot of you now want to really have a go at this as we approach autumn later on in the year and try to do exactly the same as we did. We shall see you next time.